All right, everybody. We already had our first show that aired in the new year in 2021. That was on New Year's Day. This is our first show that we are recording in the new year of 2021, which we are both excited to get deep into because 2020 was such a shit show. So here we are for episode 28 of Now Showing with Mike and wow. Now Showing with Mike and Wayne. That's the name of our show, everybody. You should know it by now. I should know it by now, but apparently I don't. This week we are going to talk about Angelina Jolie, her acting, her directing, just how she has kind of stayed relevant for the last almost 30 years, um, and some of the movies that we enjoy from her. And we're just going to kind of go through the list, like similar to how we did with Seth Rogen when we talked about him. She's always been one of my favorite actresses. Anyone that knows me knows that. It's basically her and Scarlett Johansson, and it's just someone I wanted to talk about, and I think we need giving more attention to female actors who then ended up being directors as well is a good thing to do. So we're going to do that, especially coming off a year, Wayne. I don't know if you knew this, but in 2020 was a record year for movies directed by females. So I think that's a good way to start, and we're going to get into it.
Sounds good, man. Angelina Jolie is amazing. I know she gets a lot of flack for her personal life and stuff like that, and things that we're out of the ordinary things that people have seen that really don't know the whole context about. So, I'm looking forward to diving into this and just really exploring her career because she's one of these actresses and now directing and whatnot that I don't want to say you forget about, but you kind of you do kind of. I kind of forgot all the things that she's been in, and then I think of something. Oh yeah, she was in that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, that movie. Oh, I love that movie back in the day, and I haven't seen it in maybe 15 years, but yeah. So let's dive in. Let's get in. Let's get it on.
All right, we're gonna start with a genre film. It's her first major feature. It was a straight-to-video movie. Wayne, you probably haven't seen it, I'm guessing. But back in the late 80s, early 90s, Jean-Claude Van Damme was in a movie called Cyborg. Okay, they made a sequel straight to video in 1993 called Cyborg 2, starring the lovely Angelina Jolie in the lead role of the cyborg. I believe Malcolm McDowell was in it too. I think it's a bizarre one of those just weird movies from the 90s that no one really knows about, but it exists, and she's in it, and it's her first feature. Um, no, sorry, it wasn't. It was Jack Palance. My bad. Jack Palance, Elias Koteas, Billy Drago. It's just such a weird, bizarre piece of cinema history, and the fact that it starred one of the most beloved actresses today, in Angelina Jolie, in her first role is just kind of a shock, I think, to a lot of people if when they find that out. If they know that, they probably don't. So this may be an introduction to most of you.
With that cast, it's kind of surprising that it went straight to video because Jack Palance alone in that time, you think, oh well, that's worthy of a theatrical release.
Yep, that was right around his Oscar win for City Slickers. So I mean, that was prime Jack Palance time, at least for our time growing up. Obviously, he was around much longer than that. She's in a bunch of music videos, as beautiful people like her were. Not surprising. Alicia Silverstone, same thing. Liv Tyler as well. Obviously, her father is a musician. I think the first movie, though, there are two movies that I think people really start to know her from, and they're Hackers, Wayne, which I think you and me, this is part of our generation. Maybe in the early part of our generation, we were like 13 or 12 when it came out, which was probably kind of perfect because she's a very attractive woman, and we were coming of age at that moment, and when she was in Hackers, and the movie's always stuck with me. Her obviously she's great in it, but Johnny Lee Miller is in it as well. Matthew Lillard, I want to say, let me bring up the cast list real quick, but it's always been kind of one of my favorite. I don't know if you call it a B movie, would you? But I mean, it was in theaters and stuff, so.
Yeah, I watched this probably about 4 years ago, and I'm like, wow, this is dated. But I do have to just stop, and as I always do, anybody who was ever in The Sopranos, I have to give a shout out. Lorraine Bracco, Bracco played the role of Margot. So obviously this place in my heart because Sopranos.
Well,
one of really close friends from childhood to finally sit down and watch The Sopranos. He's 10 years now. Too much hype. I'm watching it last week. He's already on season 3. So.
Well, nice. Good for him.
I told you it's good. Moving
back to Angelina. Johnny Lee Miller, Angelina Jolie, Jesse Bradford from Bring It On, Matthew Lillard. We just had Lorraine Bracco. Fisher Stevens plays like the villain of the movie, if there is a villain. Wendell Pierce is in it from The Wire. He's a great actor. Mark Anthony, formerly married to Jennifer Lopez, he plays one of the agents in it. Singer, obviously, as well. Penn Jillette. There's just, it's got Felicity Huffman. It's got a good cast, a good starring cast, a good supporting cast. It's cheesy. The hacking in it is bullshit, as most people have come to realize this day. It's just basically a bunch of typing on computers really fast, which is people that are like hackers are like, that's not how it is at all. It's usually very slow. And it's typing a code in and then waiting an hour for it to break.
But that sir.
Yes.
Action, fast-paced intention.
Exactly. Super fast editing, as many would expect from a movie like this. It's so 90s. Like Wayne said, it's very dated. It's such a 90s movie. But because she's in it, and Johnny Lee Miller, who I was always a big fan of too from Trainspotting, it really, like I said, it holds part of me with it, I guess, just because it was one of those movies I watched several times growing up. Matthew Lillard also from Scream, so he was a big part of my childhood, growing up in film and stuff like that. So it really is one of those movies. I'll mention a couple other ones. Without Evidence, Foxfire is a really good indie flick with her. A bunch of other young female actresses in that one as well.
Hey, real question. Sorry, not to interrupt the flow here, but weren't they married for a short time after the...
Her and Johnny Lee Miller were together for a little bit after this. It was right around the time of the whole brother thing. Again, there's a lot of weird things in the history of Angelina Jolie. Everyone's aware of the vial of blood she wore around her neck when she was married to Billy Bob Thornton, most likely. Whether that really was a vial of blood or for shock factor. There was at the Oscars, that's what they were showing up to. It was either Oscars or MTV Movie Awards or whatever. They asked them, like, it had to be MTV Movie Awards, because they asked them, like, if they had sex in, like, weird places, and she's like, well, we just had sex in the car on the way here, and that was, like, that shocked everybody.
Yeah, and I mean, that really seemed like their whole shtick. Mm-hmm. But let's be honest, if we could have a vial of Billy Bob Thornton's blood, I would probably wear it.
Of course, I would too. Yeah. So Foxfire had Hetty Burris, Angelina Jolie, Jenny Lewis, the singer. Lots of Peter Fasinelli was in it. Dash Mihawk. Those are, you look them up. They're indie actors. You would recognize them. Eldon Henson, Foggy from the Daredevil series on Netflix. So pretty good indie supporting cast. Good movie, I think. I saw it it's probably been like 20 years, probably when I was working at Blockbuster. I was like, oh, I've never seen this movie with Angelina in it. Really good indie flick.
Yeah, I'm looking, just going through her filmography here, and I'm trying to figure out what the next one...
because I said there were two. The next one would be Gia. And that was the HBO docudrama about the model Gia, which she played. And that was the one that kind of shot her to stardom, and very quickly too. I know, from 93 to 98, that's 5 years, but in the Hollywood scheme of things, if you look at a lot of other actors, it took them a little longer. And she went basically from Gia, and then we'll get to how her career kind of took off after that. But Gia was the one that showed people that she could, the range that she had, I think. And it allowed people to see the performance that she was able to give and what she was capable of. And I think it really helped launch her career, which is great because it's an HBO made-for-TV movie, right? So you're not, at that point, HBO they were just on the cusp of becoming known for, like, great cinema, great, I know it's TV, but still, making great TV shows like The Sopranos and great movies like Gia and some of the other ones that would come after that were very much like watching a theatrical, like a not theatrical.
The Wire.
Yeah, The Wire. Just like watching something in the movie theater, and that was the quality that it started kind of there, and then went to Sex and the City and The Sopranos and Oz, and just spun all the way to now, to where they are regarded as one of the best places on television to make movies or TV shows. And she got to kind of be in the forefront of that, and that movie, I don't know if a lot of people have forgotten about it or not. It's a really good movie. It's basically about the self-destruction of a supermodel. Drugs, alcohol, sex, just everything kind of takes this girl and just turns her inside out. And it's kind of how the business is effed.
This was like watching Any Given Sunday related to sports. Your first real inside look, or maybe like the pro college sports, where it's like, this is what really kind of goes on and happens if you're not careful. And you don't have a good, like, wow.
Yeah, it was.
It's for made for TV movie, quote unquote.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just like you said, it definitely theatrical quality and just her performance for sure.
Yeah. Around that time, she did Playing God with David Duchovny. I remember that movie as like, hey, let's try to get David Duchovny to be a movie star. Never really worked out. As much as I love David Duchovny, and we've talked about him on this show before, he just didn't have that movie star quality, and that was another movie that was like, the best thing about it was Angelina Jolie. So like that was it.
Not to switch it, but I love David Duchovny in California. So
of course.
That's pleasures.
TV though, that's just it. Like Playing God was in theaters. He's great on TV. Obviously, X-Files, Californication, some of the other things that he's done. Okay, so 99 was kind of the year that I think people started to realize that she was something, that she was a star. Because we got 3 movies here. The first one I am a big fan of, starring Billy Bob Thornton and John Cusack, is Pushing Tin. She kind of plays the love pot, I guess you would, like the hot girl that the main character wants to have. It's a weird movie because it's so of its time. It wasn't weird in 1999 that there was a movie about 2 flight controllers that were like opposing sides. But saying it now out loud, it sounds kind of strange that there was a movie about 2 flight controllers like on opposing sides who were like totally against each other. But that's what this movie was. And it was an interesting, like, dark comedy, I would say. Drama.
Yeah. Your flight controller buddies who all succeed in every way possible.
Right, exactly. I mean, look at this cast. You got John Cusack, Billy Bob Thornton. I didn't even realize Cate Blanchett was the other woman in this movie. So you get Cate Blanchett and Angelina Jolie. Jake Weber, Kurt Fuller from the Ghostbuster movies, and many other things. Just directed by Mike Newell. I mean, it had a lot of like pedigree to it, and I really enjoyed this movie when it came out. I haven't seen it probably since 2000, but it was fun. And her next movie, though, was probably the one that I think box office wise put her on the map, and that was The Bone Collector.
Box office, definitely. This was. When I saw like previews and stuff for it, I'm like, all right, Denzel Washington for sure, but I didn't really get exactly what was going on with I get it, like, murder mystery type thing, but actually going and seeing this in the theater, I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like one of those surprising hits for me. So
no, it was. It kind of came out at the time when those type of thrillers were popular. It was a couple years after Seven, so they were kind of living off of that. I don't know that it was very well reviewed, but that doesn't matter. What matters is that the audience liked it, and I think it still is a movie that is around today because those type of thrillers are something that people want, and they don't make as much as they used to. Because I know my wife is always like, "But you got something that's a horror movie with a serial killer in it?" I'm like, well, unfortunately, they don't come out once a week. It seems like back in the day they kind of did. This is one that we still watch. Denzel is very good in this one. Angelina Jolie is very good, and like I said, her very kind of first co-starring role, if you will, because obviously it's Denzel's face is bigger on the picture than hers, but that's because she was known, but she wasn't the star power that she is today.
Got a Rooker though. Anything he's in, I'm gonna give it a watch. I don't care how bad it.
Who?
Michael Rooker.
Oh yeah. Oh God, I love Rooker. Rooker, and then also Luis Guzman. Anything Luis Guzman is in, I'm all about. Also had Queen Latifah in it. It had a really good supporting cast. Leland Orser is in it as well. I won't, if anyone hasn't seen it, I won't spoil it.
How about Ed O'Neill? I mean,
yeah,
it's Pauly Solito. I forgot about him. Like,
yeah.
how do you forget that he? That's because of this the talent in this film.
Yes, exactly. There's a lot of talent in the film. It's a good, like I said, a good kind of box office role for her. Now, her next one, I think, is a lot of the goodwill from Gia goes into Girl Interrupted. Girl Interrupted is a movie about drug addiction and mental illness, and it stars Winona Ryder as a woman who tries to kill herself by downing a whole bottle of like ibuprofen, which they show you in this movie that it just makes you sick. It's not going to kill you. It's just, it may hurt your kidneys or whatever, but it's really just going to make you want to vomit. And so they send her to the psych ward where she meets a couple different characters. One of those characters is Angelina Jolie's Lisa, and this was when she won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress, and she gives a fantastic performance as Lisa. Just the mental stability with the character and how crazy she can get. Lots of range in this role for her. It also stars Clea Duvall and Brittany Murphy, who Clea Duvall just directed Happiest Season, which we just reviewed and talked about several podcasts. And obviously Brittany Murphy, most people know her. She passed away. Elizabeth Moss is in it. Jared Leto, Jeffrey Tambor, Vanessa Redgrave, Whoopi Goldberg, Angela Bettis. I mean, this movie's loaded. So
loaded with especially female talent.
Yes, exactly. And I'll tell you right now, I didn't even realize that I'm a huge fan of his. Directed by James Mangold, the man who did Logan and the most recent Ford vs. Ferrari, and is doing the new Indiana Jones movie. I honestly did not realize that he did this movie, and it makes sense that how good it is because he's a great director.
Absolutely.
But that movie, I think, when I first saw that movie, that was when I was like, wow, like she's got the talent to back up everything else. Even the problem was is when the other issue with this movie was when she did it, people were like, well, she's just crazy in real life. That's not what acting is normally, right? Like a lot of people, you get people that are like, well, they just played a regular person. How hard is that? Very hard. As someone who has done it on the smallest level possible, and that's like high school play acting myself, I'm not very talented as an actor, and I'll admit that right here. But it can be difficult at times to hit the right marks and stuff, and to do it on a level that they do it. This is, again, I'm from the lowest rung of actors, so don't take my experience as like, oh my god, he knows what he's talking about necessarily. But I just,
you do, because in a sense, just for the amount of films that you've consumed, it's like you get these people that criticize. They're like, oh, his performance wasn't really that good.
Yeah.
These are the people who think they can act,
right?
And you see them try to do something, and it's like, really?
Yeah. Well, and around this same time, I had someone tell me when Benicio del Toro won for Traffic, oh, well, he just played a normal guy. I was like, but what? I'm like, he wasn't playing himself. I'm like, he played a dude who was like a agent for Mexico, like a Fed, basically. And and I'm like, I guess, like, so basically it's like what you're telling me is only Daniel Day-Lewis could ever win Oscars and only Meryl Streep because they, like, go into the character. So it's a different, people forget that acting is acting, and for some people it's really getting involved in the role, like a Daniel Day-Lewis, where you're that person for 6 months. For other people, like Tom Hanks, it's just being Tom Hanks, and then when they say action, you're that character, and then when they say cut, you're Tom Hanks again, and that's still acting. Whether you could see it differently, I guess it's still acting. And I think in this movie she does some phenomenal acting. She was great for this role, and again, like I said, it was just one of those weird things to have someone question her ability for this movie, and like as if, like we just talked about, like as if they know what it's like. And like I said, basically, me being in place, I don't know what her performance is like, and getting that type of performance.
When I saw this was right in the middle of my obsession with Dawson's Creek and becoming a film guy and all this. Watching this, I did think, like, wow, she is doing an amazing job. And like the thought was that I wonder if she's channeling some of her own mental struggles or something into this. Not making any allegations. Oh, yeah. She's just, but it's like her performance was so believable that it made me like wonder.
And maybe
I hope that doesn't come across as like judgmental or anything. It's just.
And I think we do that sometimes. Another example I can give is Keanu Reeves in the movie The Gift with Cate Blanchett. He was so good as a wife beater in that movie. I heard so many people be like, "Oh, well, he was just playing himself. That's why he was so good." I'm like, and especially now, what we know that Keanu Reeves is like the nicest man in Hollywood. Like he must have gone to some deep places to pull that character out, and it actually makes it more impressive of that role for him. And I think with her too, we probably don't realize, like you said. I don't want it to sound like, actors don't pull from themselves, because they do, and that's something that I'm sure she did. I'm sure she pulled from her own history and life to get this performance. But my point is that doesn't make her this person. She may have qualities of this person inside of her, but that doesn't make her a crazy person. It just means that she's lived a life at this point. And this was when she was still very young. But yeah, and we don't need to, again, get and what's good acting and what's not good acting. Obviously, it's all up to your own opinion. But I thought it was a phenomenal performance. Probably still one of her best of her career. Obviously, she was given the Oscar for it. Go ahead.
No, I was just jumping to the next one, which is my personal.
Well, here, let's start this up. So, 2000, that's basically when they were like, okay, so she's a star now. So we need to put her in movies that she's going to help. So the next movie, she's not really the star of, but they're like, if we add Angelina Jolie into this movie, people are going to be more interested in it, not only because it has the 90s and early 2000s phenom of Nicolas Cage, but it has Angelina Jolie in it. And that is Gone in 60 Seconds, the remake. Just a cool movie, real cool flick. Wayne, I'll let you talk about this one a little bit.
The original was made in 1974. I had never heard of it before, but I heard Fast Cars, Nicolas Cage, and Angelina Jolie. Sign me up for a double. Nicolas Cage plays Memphis Reigns, a legendary car thief who, leaves to straighten his life out. He's setting a bad example for his younger brother. Kip Reigns, played by one of my favorites, Giovanni Ribisi. But the influence there is there. Kip starts following in Noel Memphis's footsteps. Angelina Jolie plays Sarah Sway Wayland. I like that whole sway thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Just action packed. All the characters are cool. The action really has a lot of great comedic undertones, like Scott Conn and Tumblr.
Yeah.
Chi McBride, Vinnie Jones, the Sphinx, the Mute.
Yes. Well, here, let's go through. So, James Duvall as Freb. He is the... most people would know him as the guy in the bunny suit in Donnie Darko, but he was a big actor in the 90s. He kind of popped up in everything. Will Patton as Atlee Jackson. He was also in a lot of 90s movies. Delroy Lindo. Timothy Olyphant. Always one of my favorite character actors to pop up in the 90s and early 2000s. Has gone on to be a big TV star, obviously, with Deadwood and Justified. Just appeared on Mandalorian, obviously. Robert Duvall, Christopher Eccleston. You already mentioned Vinnie Jones. Giovanni Ribisi plays Kip Reigns, his brother. Let's see. You said Scott Conn. I mean, there was just... This is another movie, too. It came out in 2000, but it's very 90s. There's a lot of 90s actors in this movie because it's just on the cusp of, obviously, the late 90s. But it feels like the start of the 2000 action films. That's how this movie is shot. That's what... It kind of started that whole look. And I still love it. Is it cheesy? Sure. Is it fun as hell to watch, though? Yes, it is. Just watching them drive those fast cars around... Part of the reason why the Fast and Furious franchise has lasted so long. People love watching fast cars go boom and survive craziness. Like there's the one where he takes the really fancy car. I'm not a car guy, so I don't know the names of them, but he jumps it over the bridge or whatever, and it's like you could even see the car land and like smash a little bit, but then they cut back to it and it looks fine. like that's just how they did it back then.
The way they set up the Memphis Reigns relationship with a car, like it's an ex-girl with the 1967 Shelby Mustang, Eleanor. They give it a name, they give it a persona. Just that whole relationship thing It resonated with me a great deal.
Yes, agreed. And her and Nicolas Cage had great chemistry in that movie, I think, and that was what made them kind of very memorable in those roles, was because they worked really well together. And and you know what? I can say this about Nicolas Cage: he hasn't become one of those actors that has never he never stopped caring, and he still gives like good performances or what is needed for the shitty movies he's in. So imagine like the movies that were actually entertaining that he was in, he still gave his all, even if it was just still Nicolas Cage's all. So
I'm running through his filmography right now because I can't remember the name. What is the movie where he has to come back from the dead to save his daughter's life or soul?
That is Drive.
Yeah.
Drive Angry. That's it. Drive Angry.
Really, really like that one.
That's such a cheesy movie. I just watched it recently. I love that movie.
Yeah. Like I said, Gone in 60 Seconds.
Good
Probably
flick.
Favorite Angelina Jolie. Well, definitely top 5 for sure. But.
Definitely, I agree with that. So this, again, like we said, this is what kind of started her career as the box office draw. Now, her next couple movies we're not going to spend a lot of time on because while she was the box office draw, they weren't very good. They did Lara Croft Tomb Raider, which I actually ended up seeing twice in the movie theater, I believe. I think I saw it once here and then like once in Germany. Not a very good movie. She is great in it. She has a great British accent, which she's always been good at doing. She looks the part, which I mean people know Lara Croft is very voluptuous in the video game. Angelina Jolie, very much the same. So that was good casting. Other than that, kind of like how we talked about Catwoman last week, they got the beginning part right. They cast the right person. The rest of the movie just didn't follow.
And that happens so many times with video game movies based on video. It's just, here's the title. I know you guys love the game.
Yeah.
But why do we need to put anything else into it?
Right, exactly. And that was a good example of that. Now, that movie, again, showing her box office strength, made a lot of money because, as we all eventually know, it got a sequel. Before that sequel, though, she did Original Sin, which was kind of like a erotic sexual drama with Antonio Banderas.
It is,
it delivers on the eroticism part.
Yeah, it is a passionate. We're talking about the sex scene.
Yes, exactly.
It's very motivating, I'll say.
Yes, it also co-stars Thomas Jane, who is an actor I like, but just not a very good movie. Then she did Life or Something Like It, which was her stab at the rom-com. That was her and Ed Burns. People may remember Ed Burns. He had a career in the 90s and early 2000s. It's kind of fizzled since then. I still like Ed Burns. Tony Shalhoub was in that one as well. James Gammon from Major League. Just a typical rom-com. It's like a news reporter's like looking for this story to break her career, and she does eventually get it, but then it's like what comes with it, the person she has to become, so then she wants to be a different person. So it's one of those rom-coms, very typical. But 2003, Lara Croft, Tomb Raider, The Cradle of Life. I'm going to be honest with you, Wayne, I still have not seen this because I didn't care for the first one. When the second one came out, I was just like, I don't really want to see that.
Yeah, agreed. I did not see it either. I was never a big fan of the Tomb Raider video games, so
same here. So yeah, it's kind of so then she did Beyond Borders. I never really saw that one. Clive Owen's in that with her. Taking Lives. Taking Lives is another kind of like bone collector type movie. This one she plays a cop in like Canada, and there's a killer in the beginning, a murder. Paul Dano plays a younger version of this killer who kills somebody like on this it gives him a ride in the car, and then so they're hunting this guy. Kiefer Sutherland is in it as well, but the other main character is Ethan Hawke. I'm a big Ethan Hawke fan. I'm not going to sit here and tell anybody that this is a great movie, but I thought it was a kind of another fun thriller in the way of like a bone collector. And I think that's kind of what they were trying to achieve. There is one funny moment I have to talk about, and it is involved a sex scene where like Angelina, of course, like strips down to almost nothing. and then Ethan Hawke like leaves his jeans and shirt on like completely. It's a very weird and strange scene, almost like you're watching. People our age will know like Skinamax late at night, softcore movies. Very similar to something like that, not like a real like authentic scene. Um, she ended Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow, which I'll be honest isn't as much as I love her. There are some movies I didn't watch just because I heard how awful they were. That one I do want to see though, because I've kind of heard that it's gotten better over time.
It has. It's not great, but this was supposed to be a big franchise building movie that they're going to make a bunch of sequels for, and for me, it was just, it just didn't deliver on any one thing. It's like, I went into this thinking like a fantasy Top Gun aviator superhero type thing, and not what I expected.
Yeah.
Jude Law is the Sky Captain, Gwyneth Paltrow, Angelina Jolie, Giovanni Ribisi again, Michael Gambon, the later portrayal of Dumbledore in the Harry Potter movies, Laurence Olivier.
Yeah, they did like CGI'd him, right?
Yeah. So they kind of went and did, the Marlon Brando and the new Superman movies things before, they did it in Superman films. So
interesting.
But yeah, I'm not going to go into too much about it. I want to revisit it because I don't know if it's as bad as like everybody made it out to be. But when I saw it, I was hopeful, and I remember leaving the theater disappointed. So
it's also too, I think, a movie maybe ahead of its time. Because as we talked about last week, the CGI in 2004 wasn't great. And it wasn't just Catwoman. It was most movies back then. And that came out the same year. So I kind of have a feeling maybe if it was made now and say like someone like a James Cameron got a hold of it or...
hell, let's let Michael Bay with it. Let's blow some stuff up.
Okay, or we could go the Michael Bay route and just have lots of explosions. That'll happen too. I was going to say Christopher Nolan was the other one, because they like to do a lot of digital effects and stuff. Shark Tale, fun kids movie that she was in. She was one of the main voices. Good flick. So the next one, 2004, I like this movie. A lot of people hated this movie, and this is Oliver Stone's Alexander. And I think a lot of it... Sorry, Wayne, what?
I am not familiar with this one, so I'm eager to hear.
Well, I'll give you it right now, 5.6 on IMDb, 39 Metascore, so not very well received. I like this movie. I don't know why. I can't even tell you why I liked it. I just thought, I guess maybe because all the actors in it. It was Anthony Hopkins, Angelina Jolie, Val Kilmer, let's see, Christopher Plummer, Colin Farrell, Jared Leto. It was Joseph Morgan, who was on the originals and Vampire Diaries. Jonathan Rhys-Meyers. I know Rosario Dawson was in it. It just had this great cast of, I guess, maybe that's why people don't like these movies a lot of times. Great cast of beautiful people. And it's this kind of epic story of Alexander the Great and how he became so. It throws in a lot of stuff that may or may not be true. I think that was maybe some of the thing that people had with it. Like I said, I enjoyed this movie. I know a lot of people didn't. It came out the same time as Troy. So 2 movies about that time period that were judged very harshly.
Let me ask you, did they just stop trying to use the accents halfway through the film like in Troy?
No, I don't think so. I think they kept him. It was some of it was just a little weird. Like Angelina Jolie's character is very venomous, and it's like the whole movie. She plays the mom of Alexander, and Rosario Dawson is very similar too, because she's like his wife, but she's like very much the same way. Even though that he may be having this romantic relationship with his best friend, played by Jared Leto, and so there's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of pieces. It looks beautiful. It's shot very well. They do some really cool stuff with colors. It's like I said, I understand it's not a great movie. It's just one of those movies I've always liked. And they have I haven't watched it yet, but I own it. They have the director's cut, so I want to watch that. I think it's called Alexander Revisited or something like that. But yeah, just a weird kind of part of history, I would say, of cinema, and just to have that cast, and it was before Colin Farrell like took a couple years off and went and got some acting lessons. Which that's not me making a joke. He actually said that he kind of restudied after, and ever since he's come back, he's been amazing. So this was before his comeback. So his performance is not the best. So 2005 is another movie I really enjoyed. Again, it wasn't really loved by a lot of people. Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
I absolutely love this film.
Now, it's got a lot behind it, obviously, because it is the movie to be believed that ruined Jennifer Aniston and Brad Pitt's marriage, and that possibly Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt started up a relationship on set while he was still married. They have denied that, but that is what everyone believes. So that's what this movie is kind of attached to, I think, for its history. However, on that note, it's still a very fun movie. Doug Liman is a great director, I think. Vince Vaughn is in it as like Brad Pitt's like best friend. I thought he was great in it. It's just a fun spy movie that is just action packed and very funny. And again, you're watching two probably at the time of the most beautiful people in Hollywood in a movie together. So that was a fun thing, I think, to experience, especially in the theaters.
Yeah, I love how they play off of the dullness of suburban life, and
yes.
Now that they're both very successful in their careers. Obviously, their careers involve murdering people, but massive house, and they're having a conversation about peas.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just the double lives, and it's funny that they're both spies, but neither one can figure out that they're.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. How good are they at their job if they can't figure out the other one's a spy? The Good Shepherd, I'm be honest, this movie I still haven't seen. So I know she's in it and she's supposed to be good in it, and it's directed by De Niro, starring her and Matt Damon. Haven't watched it yet. Another one I own. So, A Mighty Heart was really good. It's a drama. She plays the wife of a reporter who. Let me get his name here. Danny, I forget what his last name was. It's a true story though. She's the wife of a reporter who went over to like the Middle East and got I want to say beheaded on camera. And she gives her another movie where she gives a really great performance. Marianne Pearl, so Daniel Pearl. It's about Marianne trying to find her husband, and then even like after he ends up dead, like getting him home to her. And it's a really touching movie. There was question, I think, because I believe, I want to say Marianne is like South African. So now that doesn't mean she can't be white, because there are a lot of white South Africans, but she may not have been white. And I think so. There was a lot of speculation. Again, Hollywood whitewashing. I don't think there's an actor probably that's her age and above that hasn't been involved in that sort of type of casting. Now, obviously, I think people are better to the point where they know that they shouldn't take those roles, hopefully. But again, it was still, taking that out of it, it was still a good performance. She did a good job. It's a good drama. I've only seen it the one time, but I did enjoy that movie. She had a couple animated ones in a row. Beowulf, which was weird. Stop motion.
One of the first movies I saw with my wife. I saw it with her brother right around Christmas time. It was the first year that we were dating. I remember it being extremely cold, and I couldn't wait to get in the theater. And after that, I don't really remember a lot of it. You hit the nail on the head with it being weird.
She plays Grendel's mother. Yep. So, and it's stop motion. Ray Winstone, who I love, plays Beowulf. It's got a good cast. It was just a weird movie choice, I think, from most people.
Love her, so.
Yeah, right, exactly. I've gone out of my way to see some really crappy movies she's been in, and that's probably one of them. I haven't seen them all, as we've been talking, obviously. So then we said Kung Fu Panda, which has obviously become a great kid series, lots of TV shows, but 2008 for me was a good year for her because, and 2010 for that matter. So her next three films, Changeling, directed by Clint Eastwood, is a movie about a mother whose child goes missing, and the police find a child, and they want her to take the child home and say that it's her child. However, she knows it's not her child. Go ahead, Wayne.
I want my baby back, Ribs.
It was one of those movies because it wasn't very well reviewed, so when it came out, I wasn't sure if I was going to like it or not. It is long, but I really like this movie a lot. I've watched it a handful of times since it came out. Probably one of my more current. I know it's not super current for Clint Eastwood. It's 12 years ago, but a movie of his within the last 20 years that I really, really like. She gives a phenomenal performance. She was definitely overlooked at the Oscars for this one. It's just a really kind of gut wrenching movie about this mother trying to find her son. And if people, it's based on a true story. So if you want to look up the true story, it's pretty depressing in its own right. And what happened to her afterwards. It's just, yeah, it's a crazy movie. It's so good though. Great supporting cast as Eastwood always manages to get. One of my favorites, Jeffrey Donovan, who was on the TV show Burn Notice. He's in it. So anytime I get to see him in like a major big budget movie, I think it's always kind of fun. But yeah, just John Malkovich was in it. Colm Fiore, look him up, you'll recognize him. He was one of the police officers, I think, Jeffrey Donovan. But yeah, it's just a really good movie. And I think people should definitely check it out if you haven't seen it.
Nice. I will definitely do that because I have not.
Yeah, it's really good. I think you'd like it, Wayne. It's long though. Like it's like 2.5 hours, so you gotta set some time, but
I hear you. I'm eager to hear your opinion of this next one we're going to talk about.
All right, so 2008, Wanted came out. This was a surprise box office hit. I remember it pretty clearly. It came out the same weekend as Wall-E, and they both made about $68 million or around such. So huge box office hit for her. I think people weren't expecting it. Starring James McAvoy, Angelina Jolie, Morgan Freeman, Terrence Stamp, Thomas Kretschmann, Common. Just a lot of people in this one. It's from Timur Bekmambetov. He's a Russian director. He did some vampire flicks that people probably would recognize or at least remember. Night Watch and Day Watch. Apparently he did the most recent Ben-Hur. I didn't see that one. I loved this movie when I saw it in theaters 12 years ago. And
Absolutely.
yeah, it was a lot of fun. She was a huge reason I saw it. Go ahead.
Yep. Yeah, just the whole dynamic and the history behind how the assassination targets get picked, and just James McAvoy in this film, just with his panic attacks and then his character development, or I don't know what would you call it? The switch getting flipped.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
I mean, when Chris Pratt gets cracked in the face with a keyboard, you couldn't help but just cheer and feel happy.
Yes.
Remember feeling a little bit let down by the reveal at, the whole...
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I gotcha.
But, yeah, just action-packed and just... I remember honestly thinking, it's like, can you really bend a bullet?
Such a Keanu Reeves thing. It's such a cool movie. The special effects, I mean, it was trying to be the next Matrix. Let's be honest. That's what it was trying to be. It's based on a comic book, where they're able to bend like time and stuff when they shoot their bullets. So they're able to kind of shoot a bullet straight, and then if the target's behind the wall, make the bullet go this way and then go that way and then hit the target. And that's just the premise of the assassins and what they're able to do. Angelina Jolie kind of plays one of the ones that trains McAvoy's character. She's not totally aware of the corruption within the organization, which comes to light later. I wasn't a huge fan. If people have known this movie, I wasn't a huge fan of what happened to her character and the fate. Apparently she was going to come back for the sequel, which everyone was eagerly waiting to see how. So I think that kind of gives away. I'm kind of spoiling it right there. I think everybody knows what that means. But still just a cool, kick-ass movie. Lots of cool effects. I've watched it a few times since. I still enjoy it. It's these movies sometimes I think become movies that people like at the time, but then they watch them later and they just don't hold up as much. I still enjoy it. I'm not sure if everybody else does, but I really dug this movie.
I'm still waiting to find out that candle wax bath thing where I can make my body feel better and heal instantaneous.
That would be nice. I think that's something that we all need. All right. So next we get to kind of another spy thing, or definitely a spy thing, is Salt. It was a movie originally written for Tom Cruise. When he dropped out, they decided that they should go with um, a female, and that female was Angelina Jolie, and she plays Evelyn Salt, who is like a CIA agent, I believe. And they're doing this interrogation of a bad guy, of a terrorist, and he drops her name and says that she is the mole on the inside of the American government from Russia. So then everything starts to unravel. She, for her own safety, freaks out and leaves, so making her look guilty. Liev Schreiber is in it as well. He plays her partner. Chiwetel Ejiofor is the, I believe, either FBI or Secret Service or whoever, the other special agent that comes in to investigate the situation. He immediately thinks that she's guilty, but then he starts to question things that he starts to see and the way she's starting to act. He's starting to think maybe that something is up and that she's being framed. Really just kind of fun, kick-ass action flick, I think. It was meant to be a franchise. It did well. I think she kind of changed her career path at that point, so she wasn't doing as many action movies. So when the idea of a second one came up, I just don't think she was ready to do it anymore. But it was a fun movie. I remember watching it somewhat recently. I put it on while we were eating dinner like a couple months ago. Still a fun movie. It's not great, I'll be honest, but it's a kick-ass action flick, I think. It just in the action sequences and stuff. Story-wise, maybe a little to be desired. But
does it much as Kick-Ass?
Maybe. That's a joke. That's a joke, people. Just so if you didn't know. 2010, probably one of her worst movies. Wayne, I don't know. Did you ever see The Tourist?
Nope.
I did. Her and Johnny Depp. It was like, what could go wrong? The answer is everything. It's just a weird movie with a weird, stupid twist at the very end that you're just kind of like, huh, that was dumb. And it sucks because they're both in it, and I love both of them. Obviously, Depp, we're not going to get into any of his stuff right now at this moment, but as an actor, he's a great actor, and that movie was a huge letdown. So then she did the Maleficent movie, followed by the sequel. I haven't seen the sequel. I enjoyed the first Maleficent. I thought that was a fun movie. It wasn't. I've only seen it the one time, but it was fine, right? Did you see it, Wayne? I don't know if you saw that one.
I did, yes. Sleeping Beauty was always one of my favorite Disney movies growing up.
Okay.
Thought the villain was really intimidating. It's a powerful female, which we didn't get a lot of back in the day, so it was a twist. And I thought she did a phenomenal job portraying Maleficent.
Well, she was great in it. Yeah, her and it was Elle Fanning, I think, right? Yeah, they were both really good. It's a good movie. I want to see the sequel just because I liked Angelina in the first one so much. I just haven't watched it. It's on Disney Plus if people want to check it out. We'll switch gears in a minute for her directing career. 2011 was her first movie in the land of Blood and Honey. Very good international film. During the Bosnian War, Danjil, soldier fighting for the Serbs, re-encounters Ajla, a Bosnian who's now a captive in his camp he oversees. Their once promising connection has become ambiguous as their motives have changed. Good movie. Good international flick. Check it out if you haven't seen it. Unbroken was one that she did with Jack O'Connell, I believe is the actor. Yes. And Domhnall Gleeson, Garrett Hedlund. It's a war movie about an Olympian who had to go fight overseas. And it's a good movie. It's not my favorite of hers. My favorite is probably her most recent one. But it was nominated for 3 Oscars, so that's pretty cool. Best Achievement in Cinematography, Roger Deakins. Best Achievement in Sound Mixing, and Best Achievement in Sound Editing. So if you haven't seen that, I do recommend checking it out. And then I haven't seen By the Sea yet. But First They Killed My Father, which is a Netflix original. Really good movie. I really recommend it. It's a freaking just a gut punch of a film. It kind of shows her growth as a director and where she's come. I think it's very impressive for an American director to be able to direct in another language. Only a few have done it, and she did it very well twice. So the first one not as good as it. Like I said, the Blood and Honey one is it's a decent flick. This one is way above that, and just a fantastic movie. It didn't get any Oscar buzz, but it did get nominated for a Golden Globe. They're still trying to work out their thing because it was nominated for Best Foreign Language Film. People don't like when Americans get nominated for Best Foreign Language Film, and I understand it because it's kind of weird. The Oscars don't do it that way. It has to be done by a country, and the Americans don't get to throw their name into the country for Best Foreign Film. But it's a fantastic film. I kind of am anticipating her next direct movie that she'll direct. I don't know what it is, but I'm sure it'll be something. However, as Marvel fans, I think we're both excited to see her in the upcoming Eternals film, which was originally supposed to be out already, but it'll be out November of 2021. So Angelina Jolie. I mean, I love her as an actress. I have for a long time, and I follow her career. So it was great to get a chance to talk about her and her success and some of her not successes.
Yep.
But moving on, we're going to get to our review of the week. It was the brand new movie on Netflix called Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Starring Viola Davis, Chadwick Boseman, Coleman Domingo, Glenn Turman, Michael Potts, Jeremy Shamos, Johnny Coyne, and Taylor Page and Dusan Brown. Those are the main characters. Directed by George C. Wolfe. Written by Ruben Santiago Hudson. It was produced by Denzel Washington. It's based on a play by August Wilson, who Denzel directed and starred in Fences, which was also based on a play by August Wilson. So obviously he's a fan. Wanting to get black stories out to America, and that's what this movie does, I think. It's about Ma Rainey, who I didn't honestly, because it was based on a play, I didn't realize she was a real person. Which I then during the movie looked up and I was like, oh, she was a real, because my wife was like, who is she? She does that how the woman really looked? I'm like, oh, it's not a real person. And then I looked it up and it was. So you learn things sometimes.
Until the credits rolled and they started showing real life pictures. I was like, oh, no joke.
Yeah. So basically, if you've seen the trailer, it's a movie about Ma Rainey, who has this band, and she's a singer in 1927, kind of Midwest area of South. But the whole movie takes place basically in a building in Chicago.
Very much reminded me of Reservoir Dogs, just because of the centralized location.
Yes.
I'm like, nothing else other than the fact that, this all takes place in one spot. All right.
Basically, yeah. Obviously that's the comparison, where the comparison ends, because it's really nothing like Reservoir Dogs. But you are correct in the fact that yes, it takes place in one place, basically one building, a couple rooms, just like Reservoir Dogs.
It's the oddest comparison, but that's what it jumped out to me as I was finishing up the film. I'm like, huh. Anyway.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, I definitely get that comparison. So Ma Rainey has this band, and Chadwick Boseman is like the trumpet player, right? And he's like becoming the star. He's the young talent, and he's very cocky, and he wants to start his own band, and he wants the one of the songs, which is called Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. The rendition that they played live, where he kind of went off book and did whatever he wanted, people loved that song. It was very dancey. People were able to be entertained. They wanted to record that song. Ma did not want to record that song. The whole movie centers around them recording an album, basically, or in this case, probably like 6 tracks. So an EP. And Ma's very. They're both very similar, right? They're both very arrogant. The only difference in this case is Ma feels that she's earned it, and was it Lenny? Is that his name, right? Levy. Sorry, Levy, played by Boseman, believes he's earned it, but really, in the eyes of most of them, hasn't learned it yet. In the eyes of most of them, he hasn't earned it yet to be so cocky. It has a great supporting cast. Coleman Domingo, I think, is really great as Cutler. Glenn Turman as Toledo, and Michael Potts as Slow Drag are just great compliments to Boseman and Viola Davis. This movie, it's one of those movies that if you're looking for like entertainment value, it's not really going to be. It's not. There's no explosions. There's no action. It's a movie about people, like you said. It takes place in these rooms, and it's about conversations. And we've talked about movies like this before, but Let Them All Talk being a more recent one. But this one, it's compelling, man. It's compelling as hell, and you can tell it was a play because, like Fences, it feels like you're watching like a Broadway play almost, which is not a bad thing, and it's not a knock on the movie at all. That's just Broadway scenes are written obviously very different than theatrical scenes, and they kind of left it the way that it was written, and it just works really well. They work really well off of each other. The four guys in the basement preparing for Ma's arrival, just some of the best scenes of the movie.
Yep, just waiting on her.
Yep.
Now, without going into any detail, there are two scenes that are so powerful, and just watch this and knowing that this was Chadwick's last performance that we've got to see. I don't know if it's going to influence me, but I really feel that these two scenes that I'm talking about in general are definitely Oscar worthy. Just
I agree.
Powerful, made me emotional, and I just it makes me sad that we're never going to see another performance by Chadwick Boseman.
Yeah, I agree, and he is probably in a year that was just a crazy ass year. Obviously, where we lost him. Probably gave two of his best performances. This movie, and then the other Netflix original, The Five Bloods, directed by Spike Lee, which I don't believe you've seen yet, Wayne. But he is fantastic in both movies, and this movie particularly, we get to see him kind of command the scene, and it's something to behold. Like he does such a great job. It is sad to just have the realization when it's over, especially because they put big up there, dedicated to Chadwick Boseman, and you're just like, well, shit, we're never gonna see another movie from him again. I'll equate it with a completely different movie, but The Dark Knight. When that movie was over, and then you realize that you're basically done seeing Heath Ledger movies from this point on. There was still one more that was being cut together in the process, but they had to do a bunch of reshoots without him. But that's how I felt after watching this movie. It was like, damn. And just to go out on such a high note, I mean, again, I'm sure he'd obviously rather be alive, as we would all rather have him still continue to act, but it's just a testament to his work, especially in how sick he was the last couple of years. Because I'll be honest, he looked kind of skinny during this, so I had to assume that he was probably struggling during this movie and The Five Bloods, making those movies, because of his illness, because of the cancer. And the fact that he kind of gave his all till the end is very admirable. And just to see the kind of movie that Ma Rainey's Black Bottom became because of his performance and because of Viola Davis too. I mean, they're both fantastic. She definitely, if she doesn't get nominated for this and win Best Actress, I don't know what to tell you this year. Like,
I know that was Viola Davis just by looking at her. I was like, I didn't look at who up the cast list until after I'm done. I was like, that's Viola Davis. Get out of here! Just a phenomenal job. It just. You can just see, just the way she encapped the character about it. You can tell the atmosphere just by how tired and sweaty, and just by her appearance and everything. Mm-hmm. And the amount of energy that everybody puts into this movie with their performances, but just specifically Chadwick and her and Viola, it's like the amount of energy that just. The amount of themselves they had to put into making these characters believable.
Yeah.
Chadwick, and just the amount of pain in talking about
his childhood. We'll leave it. Yeah.
It's just wow.
Yeah.
And then it was that sick and going like you touched on. Wow. It's just it's a moving performance by most.
And that final scene with him, again, we won't spoil anything, but his final scene is just breathtaking. It's so good. And Yeah, the way the movie ends too is just such a crazy. It's saying a lot. The movie is saying a lot in a very short amount of time because it's only like an hour and a half long. Um, but just in those couple scenes, it says a lot. It really, again, it's another one of those movies that it's about race back then, but it still ties into now. And I think that's what's important about some of these movies, both this and The Five Bloods, because The Five Bloods takes place partially back in Vietnam. They are able to tie in the struggles of today with the struggles back then. And that's the same with Spike Lee's Black Klansman. It's the same with this movie with the 1920s, where they tie in the racism. And you got Toledo, the great Glenn Turman, talking about how we need to, black people need to pull each other up, and everyone needs to, we need to get through this. And it's just crazy that we're still kind of having those conversations today. And I know obviously this movie was made now, but I'm sure a lot of what they read was probably written by August Wilson back then, because he was writing those plays to invoke these same emotions that we have today with some of this stuff that we're watching and that we're seeing. So just
like the entertainment industry and how minority musicians as a whole were, taken advantage of.
Yep.
And
screwed over. That's right. Yeah.
Report that word, because a lot of it was given to, white talent that, made a fortune off of it, and they were given next to nothing for it.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, it says a lot. That's what I'm saying. Like, this movie says a lot. I think maybe more than people were expecting. But it just, again, it's just both of them. See it for the performances alone, whether you enjoy the storyline or not. The performances are worth your hour and a half, and it's just great to see both these actors act their asses off, and the other people support them very well. Coleman Domingo as Cutler is also very, very good, and there's been talks of you get Best Actress for Viola, Best Actor for Chadwick, and then possibly Best Supporting Actor for Coleman Domingo. So I would be very happy with that. The only thing is I wonder if Chadwick's going to get Best Supporting for Da Five Bloods and win for that one instead of winning for Best Actor. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I have a feeling he is going to win this year, just obviously because of what happened, but also because he gives two great performances this year. So watch this movie, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. It's on Netflix. Go check it out. Obviously, it's a big thumbs up for me and Wayne, or big hands up. I don't know if we can't say thumbs up, hands up. We loved it. It was great. Check it out. So
it made me curious to go and revisit the beginning of the blues. And I'm not really the jazz and blues, but just it made me curious. And although I'm still not a huge fan, it did envelop me for at least one evening.
Yes, I like the blues better than jazz. I've always been more of a blues guy than a jazz guy. I know they can kind of be grouped together, but I'm more about, for me, being more about lyrics, where jazz is more about the sound and kind of living through the sound of the music. I'm more about lyrics and kind of need that to kind of help me through. But yeah, again, just a great flick. Check it out. Definitely highly recommended from both of us. All right, moving on. We are skipping Gone But Not Forgotten this week. I do have some celebrity deaths to mention, as I've been forgetting to do that lately. We'll do that real quick before we get into Awful Good. John Huber, former WWE and AEW wrestler, dead at 41. He was in the movie Mohawk, directed by Ted Geoghegan, so some acting as well. They're not really sure if it was COVID related. There's a possibility, it sounds like. William Link, the creator of Murder, She Wrote in Columbo, dead at 87. Dawn Wells, Marianne on Gilligan's Island, passed away at 82. That was because of COVID. Adolfo Shabadoo Quiones of Break-In and Dance Pioneer, dead at 65. Joe Clark, the principal who inspired Lean On Me, starring Morgan Freeman, passed away at 82. And Gary Clark, horror film fans will know him from Day of the Dead, the original. He passed away as well. He was, I believe, 82 as well, I think. All right, so moving on to this week's Awfully Good or Just Plain Awful. This is why this segment exists. It's for movies like this. It is called Hobgoblins. And I'm going to be honest, while doing my research for bad movies to watch, I never even heard of this movie. Come to find it's a Gremlins ripoff from the 80s. And it's something. It's something else. So
it's been so bad, it's good.
Yes, I agree. And it was just like, I couldn't believe what I was watching to start, because so it starts in 4x3, which movies from the 80s, not a big shock, and it probably hasn't been updated. The old guy's not a terrible actor, so I'm not quite sure what I'm watching yet. But then when we finally get to the new security guard that he hires and his friends, they're just so awful at acting. So bad. The dialogue doesn't help. It's easily one of the worst written movies I've ever seen in my life. But it's hilarious all at the same time. I started drinking during it because I paused it. I'm like, I got to start drinking because this is going to make this movie even better. And it's where the Gremlins tie-in comes into. Apparently, many years ago, as we see eventually in a flashback, these alien critters landed at this film studio in Hollywood, and the security guard locked them in like a vault and kept it locked, and then security guards would go wander the studio and find them and get murdered, and then he would cover it up and be like, oh, they quit, and then hire a new guy. Well, the new guy does the same thing, but then he lets them out. So then he has to go find them. They're attracted to light, which is like just one of the. And then of course, not only are they attracted. My favorite thing is they're attracted to light. This is jumping ahead a little bit, but then his friends are having like a strobe dance party in the living room front window with the blinds open. So then you see that and you're like, oh, well, they're going here then.
Yeah, I have to love the where the guy breaks into the studio, very methodically creeping around. The one that's got a camera, and the older security guard uses his blazing old man speed to run him down.
Oh my god!
Speed, taking it at knife point, and then the young guy with the really believable firearm,
and he shoots it in the air. And
oh yeah.
I think my favorite was the rake fight scene, Wayne.
Yes. The only thing that was missing is they should have taken their shirts off.
Yes, I agree. It was the longest toxic masculinity fight scene that I've seen that has no masculinity in it almost whatsoever. It was like
short victory sex scene in the van, though.
Oh my god! And all it is the van shaking. That's the sex scene that we get. It's so bizarre that this movie,
as the rape fight scene is, the victory loving scene is that short. And,
yes,
you know,
there was some. Well, there was some humor in that, of course, obviously, and there were actually some legitimate funny lines said by Daphne, but there's so many awful ones too that like it's just it's hard to describe this movie. You kind of just have to see it, and this is in no way a recommendation to watch it, but I do recommend getting some. Well, when you can, or just yourself, get a case of beer, sit down, pop on Vudu. It's free on Vudu right now. And check this flick out because it's something to behold. It is such a weird, bizarre time capsule to the 80s and bad writing, bad acting. Just
I wish we could have gotten this in our high school years or even our college years. It would have been a fun night because
yes, it's well, and that I guess it gained popularity. So I was looking this up. Riff Tracks did it, which are the Mystery Science Theater guys. And that's where it gained popularity, is from the Riff Tracks version of it. And so now it's available everywhere. I think you can probably even get it on DVD or Blu-ray now. But it just so many scenes that are just so ridiculous that towards the end at the strip club, and I'm putting quotes because it's not really a strip club. It's like a dance club, strip club with no nudity. Just so, and the fact that the the Hobgoblins, which is just the name the guy created for them, because he's like, they came down from space and they look like these real little hobgoblins. So I guess that's what they're called. And then, like, I know we're kind of all over the place, but that's how this movie is. He has to go save his friend from, like, driving off a cliff because they get in your mind and they make you think of fantasies. So, like, his friend is calling 1-800 sex line numbers, and that's, like, his fantasy is to meet this girl finally. And he does, and then, like, they're basically the hobgoblins trying to kill him. It's just so weird and bizarre. It's just like the idea of what they thought teenagers were doing back then, I think, too. And there's no adults, really. Like, so I'm guessing these people are, like, in college, and this kid has his own house in college. Like, his own house. Like, or maybe he's out of college. I don't know. But, yeah, it's a weird movie, and I kind of wish more of the awfully good movies we watch were like this, because it is, to me, it's at least, it's just so bad it's good. Because it's just so bad. And, like, the victory when what's his name is found to be alive at the end, he gets set on fire first off, and then he shows up with a cast on his arm and a crutch, as if that's all that happened to him. And then they go, van, and then they go and they have the van starts rocking again. And that's basically how the movie ends. And then the one kid asks if he could use the phone so he could call the sex line again. It's just such a weird, bizarre movie. They end up blowing up the studio at the end, and it's just, and he's like, hey, I forget the guy, hold on, let me get the names right here. Hey, Kevin, did I ever tell you what I used to do in the military? Munitions. And then, like, a big explosion happens, and it's like, okay, man, like, because we needed that explanation. They were just, one scene, they're just randomly throwing hand grenades around, and shit's blown up. We don't need explanations for this shit, so just let it go. But yeah, really bizarre, weird movie.
No.
Sorry, Wayne, go ahead.
I know, I like to just juggle hand grenades when I got them. Fair one.
Yeah, it's a movie that I think has to be seen to kind of understand anything about it. All right, so we're gonna talk today. I got a couple of things I want to talk about. Hobgoblins again on Vudu. Go check it out. Vudu is free to sign up. You don't need to pay. All right, so we're gonna get into this Warner Brothers situation. So Warner Brothers, they announced that Wonder Woman plus all its 2021 movies were going to be going to theaters and HBO Max for the first 31 days right away. Now, you've had multiple directors, actors, producers come out and say how much they hate this. They made their movies to go to theaters. They want them to go to theaters. And trust me, I completely understand that. Wayne and I are big fans of going to the movies. What's going on right now is it's changed. The landscape of movies has changed for the time being. I think people are hoping it's going to get better, but at this point in time, it hasn't. And so Warner Brothers made a decision. Now, from what I'm hearing, it's a decision that they didn't talk over with the directors. They didn't talk over with other producers or other studios, and that's not good. When you make a decision like this, you should probably talk it over with them, or at least give them a heads up and be like, hey, by the way, your movie's going straight to digital for 31 days. But also theaters. People are forgetting the theatrical release is still happening. Now, granted, theaters aren't really open right now, so it is a little difficult. I like to say I am on the side of the directors. I completely understand. But because of the landscape we're in right now, I think some people have to be a little more flexible. And to understand that your movie is still going to be on the big screen, and how committed they are to this too. Because Warner Brothers, I don't know if it's been confirmed or not, but the rumors is that they're paying Legendary Pictures, who co-financed Godzilla vs. Kong and Dune with them, $250 million to put Godzilla vs. Kong on HBO Max. So that's a lot of money, and that means that they're committed to wanting that one to be on there. Dune, I think, may end up going theatrical only, because Legendary is very adamant about that. I will say about this, and people don't want to be real with Dennis Villanueva, or I don't know if that's how you say his name, but the director of Dune, I don't know that that's going to be a huge box office hit. Regardless, streaming may help it, and I think some people are getting clouded by that. His movies haven't made a crap ton of money. It's just how it's been. He did the Blade Runner 2049, was not a huge box office hit. So I think you just have to kind of look at it, I think, from both sides. Again, Warner Brothers should have told everybody, but at the same time, a lot of these movies are their movies and they can do with what they want with them. Directors just have to, I think, kind of get past the point where they know that movies are going to go to streaming a lot sooner. I think that's what we're going to see. We may not get what we're getting now, which is the theaters and then HBO Max same day. But I think what we're going to start to see, and I think it was Sony had said this, you're going to get shorter periods. So if a movie makes a very little amount of money, in 30 days it'll be on VOD. If it makes more money, maybe 60 days. It's going to be a much shorter time period, I think, in the future, which I think we were headed, before COVID, we were headed there anyway. COVID just fast-tracked it, and that's where we're at now. So while I'm not super excited about it, I kind of understand it, I guess.
It's the nature of technology and advancement. I mean, they have the ability to do it, so they're gonna. I mean,
right, exactly.
Until it's safe to go back and watch movies in the theater again, I'm always gonna go. I'm always gonna do that, but I'm thankful that we don't have to wait to see these films. We have a pathway and an ability to do that now. So
yeah, I mean, it definitely helps a podcast like ours, where we're not officially movie critics, so we don't get screeners and whatnot. So it makes it easier for us to see these newer movies, and you'll be seeing that as the Warner Brothers movies come out. We are going to be reviewing them, and that's just what we're going to do, because they're new movies that are going to be coming out, once a month at least. So that's just how we're going to handle it. And I think, again, I feel for some of these guys, because I know that they make their movies to be seen in the theaters, but they just have to be willing, I think, to adapt a little bit. Sony has talked about how more directors are reaching out to them because of this. So we'll see if that really changes the theatrical outlook of who works for who.
At the end of the day, I don't mean to be harsh about this, but they're still making movies. They're still pursuing their passion. So
this is true. Very true. Very true. And I think,
but still, I think most people would trade places with you any day of the week.
Yes,
so.
Exactly. The other thing that I want to talk about is recently, Shia LaBeouf has become the most recent person to be accused of misconduct, sexually and verbally manipulating his old girlfriend, aka Twigs, who was in Honey Boy. Now, he had some of these issues beforehand, but it wasn't, I don't think, as bad as what she's saying now, but it also had to do with addiction and alcohol use, and he had got help for that. So Honey Boy was supposed to kind of be his, I'm better now. And Hollywood kind of welcomed him back with open arms. And then we get this news that this happened. And it's on the cusp of him having a new movie for Netflix, possible Oscar talk, which Netflix has actually removed him from the consideration category. It's a big thing to talk about, because obviously if someone has done something horrible to anybody, they should be punished. They should be what's the word I'm looking for? You know the word I'm looking for. Reprimand, right? Or
held accountable.
They should be held accountable for what they did. And it sounds like a lot of what Shia did, it happened. He blames mostly on alcohol, which we've seen Mel Gibson do. We've seen other people do when it comes to racism and stuff like that.
And that's I understand that, but you're still. I'm tired of that excuse.
No, it is. It's a tiring excuse, and I think we're to the point where you don't have to take away these guys' lives, but you have to start making an example. And letting them back in just because they have talent is a bad example to set, because that's what happens here, right? you get someone like Casey Affleck, who had to do a settlement for sexual misconduct that he was sued for, and then you get other people like Mike Tyson. We've talked about him. I'm very angered at the situation, the fact that he is a convicted rapist, and everybody loves to talk about Mike Tyson and still see him punch people in the face, which is what he got in trouble for hitting a woman, and yet we've basically given him a pass. And I think it's time that we got to stop doing that, because Shia LaBeouf got his pass, and what did he do with it? He effed up again. And as much as talented as I think the guy is, and I'll even admit this, if he still makes more movies and they're critically, acclaimed or whatever, I'll probably still watch them. I won't like him while I'm watching them, but that's what I do. I watch movies and I review them and I enjoy them, and that's what I do. But it's getting to the point where it's like you and me, Wayne, we can't do anything about it. Hollywood has to stop hiring these people that do these bad things, and giving them a pass is not good. And as much as I like some of these actors that are doing these bad, they need to be stopped. They need to be shown that, like, this cannot happen. And it seems like it now has to start with Shia, because he's the next biggest person for it to happen to. And, like, some of the stuff I've read, like, we've given him multiple chances. I think it's time that those chances get taken away. Now, he can still go live his life, make indie films or whatever if people want to work with him, but stop letting him kind of into the Hollywood game. I think it's kind of over with at this point. And I'm not saying cancel him. That's the cancel culture gets thrown around. But manipulating, sexually assaulting anybody, woman, man, child, is bad. So stop doing it. And I think at this point, the business needs to say that it's over and they need to stop it. Because it just doesn't look good that it keeps happening over and over again with the same people. So it's something that just kind of needs to be dealt with. Some of it's swift, some of it takes time. And this is one, like I said, I guess it's taken time. And they just need to, if everything that FKA Twigs has said is true and his other girlfriend has said is true, sorry, see ya. Like, that's it, man. You had your opportunities.
The other thing that really bothers me is, like, people that will throw out, innocent until proven guilty. It's like, as long as you're taking every allegation incredibly serious, let's just make sure that two-way street is definitely street.
Right, exactly. And that's
Bill Boys Club is dominated. It's like, it's boys being boys. Let's make sure every accusation is taken seriously.
Well, and just remember too, they say that until it's a black person, and then when a black person gets killed by the police, what did he do? Well, why is he there? Well, you have to treat everything the same, otherwise you end up looking racist or looking like you're picking sides, and that's just how it works in the world. So,
well, there's a bombing in Tennessee that was portrayed by a white man, and also calling him a suicide bomber. Why?
Right, exactly. So yeah, it's just all this stuff is, I
mean, come on.
Yeah. Again, Hollywood, enough's enough. Like, obviously, like I said, Wayne and I aren't going to change anything. They got to start doing it. They got to make these changes. They got to get these people out of the business, stop giving them jobs, and just put out a thing that says, you know what? He's not. You know what they need to do is they need to start kicking them out of, like, SAG, and that way it'll be easier for companies to go, hey, you know what? We only work with SAG actors. We can't work with you. So they need to kind of do stuff like that, and I think that maybe that'll get us to the point where these guys are kind of weeded out of the industry. And it's just not, it never really was it was never a right thing, right? But it was tolerated, and it should just not be tolerated anymore. And I think it just needs to stop. So that's my 2 cents on it. Obviously, if you've listened to us before, we've kind of talked about this before in certain ways, but I just wanted to get, this one is the newest one that's out there. We probably won't talk about it much more again unless we really feel we need to. I just wanted to kind of address the situation, and because I know we have talked about him and talked about how great he was in Honey Boy and some of the other things that we've seen him in, and I just want to make sure. And he's got another movie coming up for Netflix that I'll probably end up watching because it's another one that's going to be possibly considered for Oscars and stuff. Obviously, he probably won't be at all. It may hurt the movie's chances now. And so be it. That is, if that's what comes out of it, that's what comes out of it. I will, say I probably feel bad for everyone that worked with him on that movie because they gave their all, they put all their effort in. But if that's what has to happen for it to get better, then that's one of those things that has to happen. So,
Right.
yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, some of the stuff I've watched this week, Wayne. I'm on to season 3 of Sons of Anarchy. Last week I was only 2 episodes in. I love the guys back in my life. They're amazing. I love that show. Bobby, freaking Mark Boone Jr. is one of my favorite character actors, and it just reminded again of how great he is on that show. Tommy Flanagan is Chibs, also one of my favorites. Ryan Hurst is Opie, another one of my favorites. Love that show. If you haven't seen it, watch it because it's so flippin' good.
Treats you as good as my love, rides you as much as my Harley.
It's just such a great TV show. Other than that, I really haven't watched a whole ton this week because I've been watching a lot of that and kind of trying to watch the stuff that we talked about. Last night I did watch I Used to Go Here with Gillian Jacobs. It's a good kind of like coming of age movie about a 30-something-year-old writer who her life has not gone the way that it was supposed to. It's pretty good. It's got Jermaine Clement in it as well. Good movie. It's takes place in Carbondale, actually, Wayne, which was interesting. That many movies take place in Carbondale, Illinois, where Southern University is. That one's on HBO Max. I rewatched Avengers Endgame and Knight's Tale. Obviously, great movies. And then I watched The Midnight Sky with George Clooney, which I was not a fan of, if you saw my post on it. Just didn't really get emotionally involved in it. The characters weren't great. The actors were good, but the movie itself just not very good. So that's it. That's what I've watched. Wayne, have you watched anything this week?
I am about halfway through season 3 of Cobra Kai. I'm mostly positive. There are a couple of things, characters that I'm missing right now.
Yes. Yeah. Aisha, I know that was a big one for a lot of people.
But, hey, there are more seasons to come, and who knows what will happen. But so far, it's been very good. It's gone a couple directions I didn't expect it to, which is great because I hate when I can figure out what the plot twist is going to be before it happens. So I've been pleasantly surprised.
Good.
I am on the last season of Dawson's Creek. I took a little break from that from the holidays, but I'm going to finish it up. The nostalgia train is pulling into the station for me on that one. I'm also watching a lot of Forensic Files, which popped up on Netflix, and the murder mystery series, Forensic Files, Cold Case Files.
Yep.
Stuff about serial killers. Tune me in.
It's America. We love stuff about serial killers. Oh, sorry. Donovan's alarm.
It's time to tell your alarm's going off. Oh my God, Festival. Let me tell you, you better eat something first. You want something on your stomach.
I'll make sure to tell him that. So this week, I don't really have any new movies coming out news. The legendary cinematographer Roger Deakins was knighted this week, so that was pretty cool. We just talked about him, but he's also known for Blade Runner 2049, 1917, True Grit, No Country for Old Men, Skyfall, Sicario, and Prisoners, to name a few. He does a lot of Coen Brother movies, which I'm a huge fan of, so that's kind of cool that he got knighted. He's an old dude. So, but that's basically our show for the week. We appreciate everybody listening, as always. We look forward to the new year and everything coming forward, the new movies that we're going to review, some of the new topics that we're going to talk about. So I mean, this is the first, I guess it's not really a full year, but a half a year of shows done, or a little more than half a year, I think, but it's been fun, and I think we have a lot of fun every week talking about the things that we talk about, and I look forward to getting through this year, and hopefully this year brings a lot of joy and fun for movies. Is a lot of the movies that were supposed to come out last year are now coming out this year, so we'll look forward to all of those, and we appreciate everybody that listens to us. Again, you could follow us at Now Showing with Mike and Wayne on Facebook and Instagram. at now_Wayne on Twitter. Email us at nowshowingwithmikeandwayne@gmail.com. You can follow me at We Are Screwed 2 on Twitter, Mike1830 on Instagram, Michael Kirkpatrick at Facebook. It's the one with the Now Showing logo. You can follow Wayne at Wayne Yerke on Twitter and Facebook, and at Wayne_Yerke on Instagram. Go to Entertainment Buffet's YouTube page. Check us out there. Hopefully, in the future, we'll be adding some more video content or some actual video content of us doing this or doing other reviews or whatnot. And so, yeah, so just look out for that, some of that kind of stuff. Go check out what else Entertainment Buffet has to offer. For Wayne Yerke, I am Michael Kirkpatrick, and thank you for listening to Now Showing with Mike and Wayne.